Welcome back. The Irish F1 or Formula One show, a Carlow-produced podcast, has been nominated for the Best Motorsport Podcast at the Global Sport Podcast Awards.
The show is shortlisted amongst some of the biggest names in broadcasting like Sky Sports and the BBC.
To find out more, we're joined in studio by the podcast host, Kevin Regan, and contributors Barry Rouse and Richard Carney. Good morning to you, lads.
Morning,
guys. Good to see you. Kevin, you're the host of this. So what is it about? It's about Formula One, but describe the podcast to us.
We've loosely described it as maybe a comedy podcast that talks a little bit about F1. It's quite loose, it's quite laid back. Obviously, there's a lot of serious punditry out there, so we kind of take a light-hearted view on it, and it seems to have kind of stood us in good stead so far.
And yourself, Barry, how did you get involved with it?
Well, I've been around racing for years. It's the family kind of hobby, and myself and Richie race ourselves in Mondello and that stuff. So we've always had a big interest in it. And initially I came on as just a kind of guest for one of the opening shows, and then the lads asked me back to be a regular contributor. So it's great fun, you know.
You impressed them.
Well, that might have been a bit desperate, I don't know, but we got in one way or the other, so we're happy enough. So yeah, it's good fun. Enjoy it.
Well, you've obviously struck a chord, Richie, because this nomination. I mean, just describe to us who you're up against.
Well, it's fairly unbelievable, to be fair. You know, going up against the likes of Sky Sports F1, BBC F1, Red Bull. You know, it's we're just a bunch of regular guys that do a Zoom call every now and again after a race, and for it to get this far, it's pretty surreal, like.
And sorry, Martin.
But it is amazing.
Absolutely. How did you feel when you heard you got this nomination?
Kevin gave us the call, and it was like, seriously?
Yeah.
And I thought it was a prank call at first, really.
To be honest, I didn't even tell the lads that we put in the submission, because I didn't really think anything of it. I said, look, we'll put it in, see what happens. And if something becomes of it, it becomes of it. And lo and behold, we got word, and I nearly fell off the chair. And the lads likewise, because they didn't know it had even gone in as such. Like, so, yeah, it was. I still can't quite believe it, to be honest with you. We're a little bit in shock, but yeah, we are where we are now, and it's nice to be there.
But I'm just thinking, like we just mentioned some of the other nominees: Sky Sports, BBC, Red Bull. You guys are making yours in a garden shed. Yeah, so much for production, big production budgets. All you need to do is have a bit of crack and know what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, that's it. And I think the lads probably know what they're talking about, maybe a little bit better than me. I'm happy enough to kind of facilitate the whole thing and, you know, let the lads at it or whatever. But no, spot on. Like, it's a garden shed. It's far from glamorous. We don't have much resources or budgets or anything like that. It's treated as a bit of fun. And I suppose if you compare that to maybe what Sky might have or what BBC might have by comparison, to go toe-to-toe with them, it's mad really, like, you know.
I heard the acoustics are great in Carlow. But so you say it's like a comedy podcast, but it's obviously resonated with audiences. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because it's different, because we don't treat it seriously. I think a lot of people maybe get caught up in the seriousness of podcasts, maybe in media, and you know, we can get a little bit wound up, and we'll have our different views. We have our different views as well, and we do treat it quite seriously, but we have fun in doing so. We never kind of fall out. So I think it's that unique aspect of it which kind of makes it stand out from the rest. Okay,
there are three of you, but you do bring guests on, Barry.
Yeah, we've had guests over the lifetime of the podcast. So Kevin's got in like a couple of BBC, or it says a Channel 4 pundit. Remind me your name. So this is why it's easy to get Lee McKenzie, who will be a Channel 4 presenter for the live F1 shows proper, and we've had some guys on that were involved in the sponsorship side of sport and facilitating sponsors to the Haas Grand Prix team. So people like that, Peter Collins, who would have been the commentator for RTE during the Jordan years, I'm sure you guys know Peter. So and we've a few other ones lined up. We've some old Irish F1 drivers lined up to come on. We've actually a friend of mine who was involved in Mercedes F1. He worked in F1 in the teams with the drivers, with Hamilton, Rosberg, Bottas. He's a buddy of mine. He's agreed to come on now. He's away at Monte Carlo this week working on a rally, and I know it's a hard life for him. God love him, but he'll be on, so get an inside view. So yeah, we're starting to, we've got access to some good people. We're hoping to have a chat with Alex Dunn, up and coming F3 Irish racing driver, who's really on the path for F1 in a couple of years, hopefully. So we'll have a chat with Alex shortly as well. So we've getting a few names in, yeah.
And I'd say after this nomination, they'll be queuing up to get on the podcast anyway. Richard, tell me about the voting process, because you need votes to win this award. And is it right that voting closes tomorrow? So how can people vote?
Yeah, voting closes tomorrow midday, I think. It's just literally hit us up on our social media, Facebook, Irish F1 Show on Facebook, click the link. It takes grand total of 30 seconds to give us a vote, and honestly, with what we're going up against, we need all the help we can get.
Can we do multiple voting?
Yeah, I believe so, yeah. But there's different browsers, isn't there? There's Firefox and there's Google and multiple different ones. So possibly, yes, I would say possibly, yeah.
So just don't stop. You guys have a great love of Formula One, but also a great love of rally driving.
Yeah.
So tell us about your love of rally driving. Where did that come from?
I think from being a kid, my dad would have brought me to rallies up and down the country, and certainly have a big draw for it. We actually had a rally podcast, the Irish Rally podcast, and a GA one when we mentioned it, left wing back, Carlo GA podcast. So those are the loves that I would have. But yeah, rallying's obviously massive in Ireland, and all motorsport is, I suppose, while maybe it's not always in the limelight, it is huge. There is a massive following, and all going well, we might have a big event obviously on our doorstep next year with the WRC.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, like you guys have carved out like quite a niche for yourselves in racing. Where did that love come from for you?
Well, in my case, my uncle, my dad's brother, was started racing when he was about 15 or 16, and then I came along then a few years, whatever, and helped him out. I used to shadow him. I used to just annoy him basically and traipse around behind him at Mondello and Kirkstown, the Irish tracks, and then for I think it was about my 17th birthday, he basically gave me a go in the car for a day, and right. I loved it, and it went a little bit better than he got in it. So he basically handed it over to me, and then we did a deal, and I bought the car off him, and I've been racing now 20 years since. So it's that's where I got hooked on it.
It's in the blood.
It's in the blood. It's a family thing, and my two brothers race now as well, and it's kind of it just keeps growing. If you have an enjoyment and a love for something, obviously it just keeps growing, and that extends to F1 then and watching it on the TV.
And we're running out of time, but I'll just ask yourself, Kevin, very quickly, where do you see the podcast going?
Well, you know what, I mean, I'm not going to pull any punches. We probably didn't really have a clear vision for where this podcast was going. It started off as a bit of crack. It's growing and growing and growing, and it's kind of like taking on that nice organic feel. I mean, it goes against everything that possibly something like this should stand for. There should probably be a roadmap, should probably be a vision for it. We haven't quite got that at the minute. I mean, don't get me wrong. We would be open to anything that comes our direction as such. But for now, we're happy to be where we are, and even to be sitting here with you guys is just fantastic, and we're loving every minute of it.
Amazing.
Well, we're delighted to have you on, and you know what? I really, really hope you guys win. I really do.
Yeah.
Fantastic if you did.
Yeah, from a garden shed, hopefully to a studio one day. But thanks so much
They
for
don't
coming
need
in,
a
guys.
studio.
Great to chat to you.
What they're doing is magic. Good to see you, boys. If you'd like to vote for the lads, you can head over to sportspodcastgroup.com.